Live on Friday, November 7th, 2014. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm happy to be joined by former Ohio State quarterback Justin Zwick. Justin, thank you so much for your time. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Got to do a lot of good things over there, and I'm just happy to get on with you here. And the big game this weekend. Been doing a lot of this actually, but I'm just looking for Saturday night.
Yeah, I can't wait either. We've been waiting for it since last December. The players have been talking about it all week. I mean, just the revenge factor and everything. And first up, I want you to give the listeners an idea of what the players are going through the day before a big game like this. I mean, I'm sure it's a mix of nerves and excitement, but take us into the mind of a player and what these guys are going through at the Michigan State game on tap for tomorrow, and so much at stake.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, a game like this, usually, being a night game, it's one of few that you have in a year, but this is the third night game in a row for these guys, so they're kind of getting used to the schedule. That's not going to play as much of a factor of being something different. It is a big game. They've heard it hyped all week long. As a player, even if you don't watch, or listen to sports talk radio or this or that, you're going to watch SportsCenter. You're going to hear about it. You're going to know that everybody's looking at this as the big game of the Saturday night. And, you try and block it out. It's there, but really, you just got to go out and play. And all week long, they've, coaches, I'm sure, have been stressing, listen, we got to take care of what we can on the field. None of the outside stuff matters. If we go and play our game, we're going to come out and we're going to feel good about what we did on Saturday night. And, as a player, it's a little different. It's not a home game. You have to travel, which will be today, to get up there and, kind of get the feel for things. And, a lot of these guys haven't been to Michigan State and don't know what to expect out of their fans and, their stadium and this and that. So, as a player, they're excited because it's going somewhere new. And just as they probably were going into Penn State, and they're just ready to put the week behind them. Really, during camp and all that, you get tired of hitting each other and this and that. It's probably the same type of thing. We've prepared so much, we know what we need to do. We just want to go out and play somebody in green and white, and I'm sure that's what they're looking forward to.
Everybody's talking about all the built-in advantages for Michigan State, and they certainly have some. They're playing at home at night. They're fresh off a bye week, which really sets up well for them. But I think, Justin, one advantage Ohio State has is that revenge factor, that mental edge. I mean, as you know, Ohio State, your playing days, any Buckeye who's played knows, you guys are always the hunted, rarely the hunter, and rarely an underdog. These guys are underdogs. They lost to these guys last year. Talk about that a little bit. How much of a mental edge do you think Ohio State has? Or maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think Michigan State has a mental edge because they won last year. Ohio State, I think they're embracing that underdog role. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think they are. I think Michigan State, has some confidence. Usually Michigan State is good for a little bit, and then they lose to us. They lose to a Penn State or something, along those lines. The last few years, it hasn't necessarily been that way. They are a good team, and then, last year we get them in the Big Ten Championship, and they win. Then they go to the Rose Bowl against the Stanford team, and they come from behind, and they find a way to win. They go out to Oregon, and they're up, big at halftime, and, didn't win that game, of course. But, I think they're kind of past that point that we're all used to. Now, on the other side of things, yeah, we're the underdog, this and that, but I don't know that we actually see it that way. We just, as an Ohio State former player, as an Ohio State fan, we're to me, we're never the underdog. Going into every game, we should be, the team that everybody expects to win. And, I think that mentality is probably something that Coach Meyer kind of sends down through the whole team. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting for these guys. And, we'll see what happens. We've got a young team going up there. They have some experience, some older guys who have been through this. The revenge factor. You also got to remember that a lot of these guys are going to be playing on Saturday didn't play in that game last year, or weren't a huge role in that game last year. So yeah, they ended the season. They ended our season last year with a loss, and we want to beat them. But I don't really buy into the revenge factor, I guess. I just know we want to go up. It's a huge game, and we need to win this if we want to have any kind of chance at a playoff down the road.
I have Ohio State winning 24-20. Any prediction you want to throw out there as far as the final score?
Yeah, I did a podcast with Justin Kershaw, who is from Reynoldsburg and played at Michigan State earlier today, and he asked me the same. And I hadn't given out any score. I told him, it's going to be a close one. I like your score, 24-20. I think it's going to be in that kind of ballpark. Definitely not going to be the 55-point game that we've gotten used to here with Urban's offense. But, I'll go with 21-17, somewhere around that range. I think that we're going to come out victorious.
Buckeye fans would take 3-2. Just win, baby.
Exactly.
This is a question I get quite often, Justin. You'd be a perfect guy to answer this. Now, we don't know what's going to happen, of course, but, again, a question I get all the time. Do you think Braxton Miller will return to Ohio State next season?
That is the $1 million question. I don't think so. I don't know what exactly is his shoulder, how bad it is, or this or that. But you have a JT Barrett come in, and the kid's playing really well. And a few weeks ago we're all saying, well, if he keeps this up, he's going to be a Heisman talk. He's going to be in Heisman contention. And how do you if that were to happen, even if it still could technically, if that were to happen at the end of the year, how do you just say, all right, hey, thanks for last year, JT. You go ahead and sit down, because you can't not play Braxton Miller if he comes back. He's just that crazy of an athlete. So it's just, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so, but stranger things have happened. He said he's coming back. He loves the Buckeyes. He loves the school. So maybe when he said that, he'll stay true to his word. And I just think there will be too many people getting in his ear this year while he's away, or not necessarily away, but not playing, saying, hey, we need to make this jump and try and get into the league, sooner than later.
I am completely with you 100%. That's the answer I give, not as eloquently as you, but a similar answer every time I'm asked. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to be, undrafted and have to make a practice squad. I just don't see him coming back to Ohio State next year. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think it's JT Barrett's team now, and I think that ship has sailed, but we'll see what happens. But I agree with you 100%.
Well, he's so injury-prone as well.
That's true. That's a good point.
And he's had things happen, so it's like, well, do you come back and risk another injury, or do you say, hey, NFL, I got my shoulder fixed, I'm good, bring me in, put me on a team, and so that's why that's just another factor of why I think it will go that way. But sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's a great point. I've covered him since high school, and he, great kid. I know you know him as well. I've covered him since he was at Wayne, and he's never been through a season where he's been unscathed. Obviously, you play a physical sport, that can happen. I think he's a tough kid. I think some people have mislabeled him as he's not tough. He's tough. He just hasn't been all that durable, and some of it hasn't been his fault, of course. But that's a great point that he's had some injury concerns. Now might be the time to go ahead and get paid. A couple more questions. We'll get you out of here. I want to get your thoughts on this. There are a few players on the team right now that appear to be in the doghouse. The coaching staff's being very coy about it. For example, Armani Reeves and Corey Smith didn't play against Illinois, likely won't play tomorrow night against Michigan State, but they're not saying why. Justin, without getting into specifics, give the listeners an idea of how often discipline matters are handled in-house, because I think it happens a lot more than perhaps the average fan realizes.
Yeah, it definitely does, and it can be literally anything from, skipping training table to skipping class to not getting an assignment in on time. These coaches have relationships with these professors on campus. They have people that are checking up on these guys. And, it could be just something, hey, he was sleeping in class today. That's not going to make him miss game time, but, that kind of stuff does go on where, hey, heard you're slacking in class today, heard you're, this or that. Get on the climber, give me an hour. Just little things, along those lines. But if it gets bad enough and it happens enough, that's when you're going to start missing game time. And then there's also other things that, can happen, worse things. But, a lot of that stuff does go on. And, coaches try and express the importance of not letting that happen. But, it's college and these kids are young and they're going to make mistakes. So, it happened when I was there. Ray Small is a good example of just a guy who could never seem to do things right. Being late to class, being late to meetings, missing class, and then, that's just really where you do it. more you do it, they just write they write you off, if you keep doing it and doing it.
And these coaches give these guys so many chances. Poor the coaches. They give Rod Smith about 9 lives, and he used every one of those 9 lives, just like Ray Small. I mean, some of these kids they're not bad kids. They just keep making the same mistake over and over again. You can't really feel sorry for them. You almost feel sorry for the coaches because they're the ones that keep bending over backwards and giving these kids chances. But I think I wanted to get your insights on that, and that was excellent. I want to promote your podcast that you're doing with former Ohio State players and yourself. Tell the listeners all about that, Justin. This is pretty exciting. What's the name of the show? How often does it air? And how can our listeners find it?
Okay, yeah, we basically are. It's huddlepass.com. And what happened is a couple guys from Northwestern started this site and basically rounded up guys like myself, former athletes from Big Ten schools. So there's started as one for every Big Ten school, and basically, we just kind of talk about our school and the games and break down stuff and kind of give our opinions, and it turned into a podcast this year. So you can go to huddlepassnation.com and follow our Ohio State Huddle, and, that will send out our podcast. It's a weekly thing. Doug Dadish and I are co-hosts. We get a guest every week. We've had Jake Ballard, Jimmy Cordell, Zach Boren, the list goes on. But we do it every week, and, we just have a good time with it. You know how it goes. You get a podcast going, and who knows what we could get into. But it's just a lot of fun, and I appreciate you bringing it up. But it's huddlepassnation.com. You can follow the Ohio State Huddle. Doug and I call our podcast it's the Ohio State Report, but we are the Thursday All-American, which basically is just a joke because on Thursdays was kind of a walkthrough practice. And they always had one guy who would go out of his way to make that interception or make that big play, and so we called them Thursday All-Americans. So we make a joke of ourselves, but we have a good time, and it's a lot of fun.
I love it, man. Great stuff on all fronts. Your podcast and all of your insights on Ohio State football, the big game tomorrow night. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. He is, of course, former Ohio State quarterback Justin Zwick. Justin, thank you so much for your time here on the Bucknuts Morning 5.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'd also like to thank all the listeners out there. Hope you all have a great weekend. Take it away, best damn band in the land.